Hey guys, welcome back to Sports with Mono and Mono. It's August 24th, 2024. And as Eli pointed out last week, we're slowly running out of summer, summer of
We are.
2024.
It's over.
But thanks
That's it.
for joining us. And we just got some early comments from one of our listeners, Mark O'Brien. And thank you, Mark. So we got a lot of stuff to talk about. It's a busy day in sports. So let's jump right into it. And of course, as we always start, the monologue kicks off our show, and that's of course sponsored by Coriano Trucking of Summerhill, New York. Who, by the way, I want to give an early shout out because tomorrow is Mr. Coriano's birthday, so we wish him happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Yeah. So Eli, the monologue this week, and it was kind of an interesting topic that I thought maybe be worth talking about. It was Yannick Sinner from the professional tennis player, world number one, by the way. I'm not sure why Alcaraz is not number one or Djokovic, but he tested positive for steroids. And the odd thing is, you know, the sports are very, very strict in this topic and so forth. And, he actually wasn't suspended or anything. So there's a lot of contention amongst his, fellow players. Rules are rules. And it doesn't matter what sport we're talking about, right? These guys all get massages. So, the rules are the rules. And I think they kind of missed the mark here by basically letting him have no consequences on this topic. And it's a little crazy to me because when we see these tennis players, they're just incredible athletes, right? We've been watching Novak Djokovic for 20 years and the athleticism of these guys, but the rules are the rules. And whether it's unintentional or not intentional, I mean, they all get massages and whatever, because they're pro athletes. But I think the tennis association may have missed the mark here. I think you had to make a point and say, listen, these are the rules, and the rules need to be followed. And basically, so he's going to be able to play in the upcoming U.S. Open without repercussions for failing not once but two drug tests. I'd be interested to hear from our loyal listeners about their feelings on this because it happens in football and in all sports, and when they do get caught, they pay the consequences either by suspension or
Right.
whatnot. And this one kind of went in an opposite direction, and I would love to hear some feedback on people from our loyal listeners as to whether or not they handled this properly or it was an accidental situation. But either way, my feelings are, and especially if you're the world's number one player, um, there's got to be consequences. So please send us an email at sportswithmonoandmono@gmail.com, or feel free to comment on the show at any time. Um, but it's a topic that I couldn't let go. I think
Absolutely.
I needed to bring it up. And what are your feelings on it, Eli?
See, to me, this situation, and I have to agree with you 100% on it. If you're, no matter if you're the number one athlete in the world or barely making the team, if you're violating one of the rules, you need to pay and follow the consequences. I
Yep.
mean, it's I found out right now about this story, so this is like new to me. Just hearing it for the first time as well. So obviously, more detail I would have to discover more to confirm about their ruling on it, but based off what I'm hearing, I'm gonna have to agree with you. If you're the number one player, you're still got to be facing the consequences, and it seems like they're getting
Yeah.
it done. I mean, yeah, how much
And
more?
like I said, this is right on the heels of the start. We'll actually start with the U.S. Open, which starts this week, and it's the final Grand Slam event
Yes,
of tennis, and it's a marvelous tournament. It's almost 2 weeks long, but we're going to see, can Coco Gauff defend her title? Can Novak Djokovic continue this incredible run that he's been on and
yeah,
coming off his gold medal win at the Olympics, beating Carlos Alcaraz. So always very, very excited. And like I said, on the women's side, one of the number one players, Anja Jabeur, just withdrew from an injury. So, that makes maybe the path for Coco Gauff to be a little easier to defend her
Lighter.
title.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on the men's side, you can fully expect that you're gonna have Djokovic, you're gonna
Another
have
battle.
and these are the best
And what I
players in the
think
world.
entering this US Open, I think we have to just pause for a second. Remember, we saw this already at Wimbledon, and now we've seen it already in the Paris Olympics, and now we're going to see it for a third time at the US Open. So we kind of get the picture of where it's going. So it's a matter of, will they continue to dominate, and will they repeat this story? Who are we going to take in the final if it's these two again? That's just a question you have to look at. On the women's side, it's another battle. It's going to be better than Wimbledon, it looks like, and it appears, and it looks like it's going to be a lighter path for Coco Gauff, but it should be nonetheless a difficult but good enough road to get you to victory for the women's side and Coco Gauff.
And she certainly will have the support of the New York fans and so
Absolutely.
forth. She's the next up and coming star, but the competition has always been tough on the women's side, so there's no guarantee. But you can always count on those top players on the men's side, and we're still talking about Djokovic. We're going to miss Rafael Nadal playing there, and it's a little bit different context without seeing Roger Federer and these guys anymore. But the new breed and Alcaraz, all right, other sports, right? From a golf perspective, right? The FedEx Championship is underway. Hideki Matsuyama wins the first leg of it at the FedEx St. Jude Classic. This weekend, it's the BMW Championship, and right now, Adam Scott, 14-time winner on the PGA Tour, is leading that. But you're going to have the guys, you're going to have the Schefflers and so forth, and I don't understand, the scoring system. So when they get to the third leg of the FedEx Cup, it's a different
ruling system.
I don't know how to even describe the thing. So it's kind of based on points of the first two tournaments to see who will be leading the scoreboard in the final event. But it's hard to root against Scotty Scheffler the way he's been playing.
No, you cannot.
And so looking forward to that, and that's it's
another good
kind of the end.
Tournament to watch.
Yeah, it is. So Eli, let's jump right into one of our favorite topics, right? Football, and let's start off first and foremost because today is the start of football season, and as you and I talked about it, College Game Day is opening up on the road for the first time as Georgia Tech Florida State game is in Dublin, Ireland, and that gets underway at noon. So that kicks off what's going to be a great college football season because now we have all of these schools have changed conferences and things. So we're going to have to get used to where all these teams are, right? It's not the traditional Pac-10, that we used to know as now Oregon is in the Big Ten and USC is in the Big Ten. So it's going to take
a lot more complicated.
Some kind of homework on.
But yet we got to see that also it's change happening in the entire game of football. When we look at the college football, new divisions, new teams are entering new divisions and a new playoff format. We now go to a condensed, bigger style playoff bracket of 12 teams, if I'm not mistaken, versus traditional 4 in the 2 bowl games prior to the national championship. Now in the NFL, you got to also look at the same situation. New kickoff rules are taking place, less tackles you can do, less scenarios and things you can do before it becomes a penalty or like a fine penalty or a red yellow flag penalty. So that is something that we have to now realize. The growth of the football game is great, but now we have a lot more homework to do before we watch these games. It's not what we used to watch last year and the years before. In the NFL, it's learning this new kickoff rule and what's been banned fully. And for college football, it's understanding where this team is now and how do they compete, with the rest of the teams participating in their division, and how will
Yep.
this affect in general the overall standings entering the playoff and Pro Bowl, uh, Pro Bowl games, bowl games is what I was referring to.
Yeah, the
Tongue
bowl
twister
games.
there.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep. But can't be more excited when it's fall. It's the end of the summer when college football. Important to both you and I is we both like high school football as well, and that season gets underway next week.
yes,
Um, my alma mater, St. Joe's, opens up against St. Francis Academy of Maryland, like always known as a national powerhouse. So, the games themselves have meaning right from week one. And
absolutely.
um, it just really, it is exciting. And,
Yeah,
I know Eli calls the St. Mary's games.
yes,
And, we may actually even do a live show from one of
yes.
those games.
So the Gales, they're taking on Pequannock this Thursday at Pequannock. It'll be a good game nonetheless. Uh, and it's at 5 o'clock, an early start rather for an August day, which I will have to confirm that information time with the athletic director.
Yep.
I'll be at the St. Mary Football Media Day today in a couple of hours. That's why we have the early show today. And I'll be talking with the players and coaches about the upcoming future for the Gales
Excellent.
team. They're improving a lot, and their first home game is that first Saturday of September, which I believe is the 7th of September. So I'll be working on potentially getting us there for a road show. No guarantee, but we are going to see how it plays out and what it can get through.
Yep. But when you talk about New Jersey high school football, right? You got to bring up the Bergen Catholics, the Don Boscos, the St.
Absolutely.
Joe's, the Del Parton. These are powerhouse teams now that are playing basically, at least 2 or 3 games across the nation. It's like it becoming a national phenomenon
Absolutely.
watching these players, and these are the same guys that will go on to Division I football. Bergen Catholic, obviously, last year just was an absolute dominating football
Yeah.
team. And, when people ask me, how many guys from these teams in New Jersey are going Division I, and, I say it depends on the school, but when you have Bergen Catholic at 7 guys going to major Division I schools, and Bosco
But
and Joe's and all these teams,
see, how
it's
I
just
look at it in terms of the college perspective, Jim, is I don't care if they're going to Division 1 or Division 0. I don't care. I just threw Division 0 out there just because I have to say it. It doesn't matter if it's D3, D2, D1. You can start all the way at the bottom and still grow way up top. So that is, something that I love about high school football, because it's an early opportunity for these guys to showcase what they love for the game. And now they're going to be out there, no matter where college they go to, Division 3 or Division 1, Division 2. They're going to get their name out there. They're going to get something out of it. And they're
yep,
going to try to earn themselves that top spot of getting to D1. D1 level is very tough to get to. These guys absolutely can have the opportunity to go there, and they might have to do some work. They might have to start at the bottom and then regrowth and hopefully get that opportunity later on. So
yep.
regardless of where these guys come out, there are college athletes that are going to be well known and well respected coming to their new college, whether it's D1, D2, or D3, as I mentioned.
Yeah, and we talk about Luke Whippler was a perfect example of that, right?
Absolutely.
St. Joe's guy, and now he went on to be the starting center for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and played in 2 national championship games, and now he's in the NFL. And there's just guys all over the league now that have come from both New Jersey, and we know the powerhouse schools in high school football, or Florida and Ohio and California
Right.
and Texas, right? So it's just great to see. And when you see these kids start, and by the way, I just wanted to kind of give a shout out, because this is also it's starting the Little League football, right? Even before high school, right? My
Right.
grandson's playing in his town at Chester Mendham, and he loves playing football. And one of our loyal listeners, Eric Hansen, has a son he's just getting into. He's a little bit younger than my grandson, but he's so into this football thing, and he's doing just what I did as a kid, and what you did as a young guy. embrace the NFL and you learn about these guys and then you follow them throughout their entire career. So I wish those guys, Logan and Robert Hansen, all the best and in their little pee-wee leagues, if you want to call it that. But it's
Yeah.
football to me is
It's football
football.
regardless. I don't care what league it is. It's still football. It's still fun.
You
You could
bet.
still throw if you could still throw a touchdown, doesn't matter.
Yep. So let's move on to the big boys league, right? The
That's more
NFL.
important.
Where and just so you know, we're going to do our NFL preview show next week.
Yep. We're live at 10
And
o'clock, so don't forget to tune in.
right. So not only will we cover, what we do is we pick 3 games a week, Eli and I. But as the season gets underway, you got to just pick the
Roll
division
with it.
winners, who you think. There's so many personnel changes, and a couple of them, like I said, let's go across the board, right? We're seeing, Jaden Daniels has been named the starting quarterback for the Washington Commanders,
I like it.
right?
And
Yeah,
well, I'm going to start with there, right there. Jaden Daniels. We saw him in preseason, and I don't care if it's preseason. He looked really good out there. And I
yep.
believe they lost to the Jets in week 1, but the way he went out there week 1 versus the Jets, that was pretty impressive to me. That shows to me that he's going to be something in this league. He is going to be one of the top guys. He could be the CJ Stroud for this year. That is my
Well,
pick.
that's always the hope, because as you know, when we see the draft, and in particular this year's draft,
It's
we had
high
like
quarterback market.
six quarterbacks taken in the top 10 picks, and some of them are going to work out. Right now, Drake May, who was anticipated to be the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots, is not going to be the starting quarterback.
Did they
So
confirm it yet? Because I think they were still waiting for Brissett or May to decide. It wasn't
yeah, but
confirmed though.
I
But
think
you never.
the offensive coordinator for the Patriots basically said right now, if the season were to start tomorrow, Jacoby Brissett would be the starting quarterback.
I see. All right. Well, we still got
But
time. It's
hey,
not confirmed, but anything can happen. But you're right. Brissett could be the starter. But for the Commanders, back to my statement there, anything is possible. And I would say don't underestimate the Commanders this season because, again, we never had a repeating winner in the NFC East. And this could be, the Commanders' year. When was the last time the Commanders won the division? It was a very long time, if I'm not mistaken.
oh yeah, no, this is the right
So
move. This is the right move for them.
this could be the year. I would not underestimate them because this is looking pretty good, and it's a hot take there. But
But that all depends on whether Daniels matures throughout the season and shows that leadership quality that Stroud showed in Houston last year.
right.
And as we know, sometimes guys translate. Right now, it's not looking great for Bryce Young. Like he hasn't made that giant leap from the number one
No, he's
player
not.
to be
And I
picked,
think that
right?
was one of the biggest busts I think that we've seen in the NFL. It's horrible to say that, but it's true. I mean, we've gone through already 3 preseason games and 2 preseason games. He's about to play the Bills today at 1:00 versus the Panthers take on the Bills. And I've seen a complete turnaround with the Panthers. And I don't care if, it's the wrong coach. I know they have a lot of coaching struggle. Management's not been fun down there in Carolina. But you're the number 1 quarterback. You have to change the game around. When CJ Stroud introduced Houston Texans, the Texans were the worst team in the entire NFL. They were considered the Panthers right now, where we don't even want to mention their name, that they're part of this football league. And they turn around and make this playoff run. The fact that we haven't seen that yet for him is kind of showing signs like, hold on, maybe it was not the best quarterback choice. And that's, a big issue because he was, again, the number 1 pick. He was the hottest guy heading into this upcoming season last year. And now we could see another bust again for a second straight year. So I think what the Panthers need to do is see how well he plays. But if it does not work out, would not be surprised he gets traded or we see no contract extensions for him.
Yeah, and let's just temper that with a little bit of, when Tua Tagliavoa came
Took a
out, and he
Loa.
was, yeah, when he was selected, he didn't get off to a great start, and
No, he didn't.
at all. And as a matter of fact, this week he came out and criticized his former head coach Brian Flores. As you could see, the past 2 seasons since Flores has been gone, his QBR rating has gone up. He seems to have developed. So, this is kind of this very similar to what you said. Bryce Young maybe he didn't have the right coaching. So all that can come into play, but you
It all
can't deny
factors
the
in,
talent.
absolutely. But the thing I think bothers me the most, and I think a lot of fans as well, he was the number one pick and the hottest person to come into the league last year. And now to see that kind of result take place, I think that's the most shocking part. And that's not
Yeah,
something that we saw fully with Tua. Obviously now he's grown to the game better, but we expected a lot from him. And I think that's, why it's, a little concerning right now for both the
you
Panthers and
know, and,
fans of the
and
league.
I always try to temper it with, some guys make an instant impact, some guys take time to develop, and some guys can't develop at all, like a
Correct.
Ryan Leaf or something, right? Um, so you got to give these guys time, and it could be a reflection of the system that they're in, that
But
it
how much
hasn't
time are we
been
talking
developed.
about though?
Huh?
Because I mean, how much time are we talking about? Because if you look at CJ Stroud, he went in there no problem. He just said, "All right, let's just play football," and took his team to a playoff run and had a
Hmm.
shot at the NFC Conference Championship. So, looking at
Yeah.
it there, I mean, how much time are we talking about that we can give him? Because you cannot go
Well,
from, if CJ Stroud was a bust, I would say absolutely. Then fair enough, fair even ground there. But since he delivered this team to a playoff run, we got to figure out about time here because it's only a matter of time before more and more new quarterbacks are going to come in better and hotter and stronger that we may
yeah,
need
and
to
here's a
consider.
here's a perfect example of, from even the New York Giants, right? Daniel Jones was a surprise number one pick. This is his sixth year. He's making a ton of money, and we saw in the beginning of the preseason game last week, he
He
looked
didn't look
like
good.
Daniel Jones, making the same immature decisions. And then but I still believe that he has a lot of talent, but this is obviously a make or break year. So you're going to have to either step up and deliver it. And look, so the Giants, Brian Dable says, and always knew that Brian Dable, you know, had confidence in the talent that Daniel Jones has, but he always had somebody else calling the plays. So Brian Dable, the head coach, is going to be calling the plays this year, and let's see if that has an impact.
As a
If
factor
Jones
into it.
himself can
But I
actually stay
think the
healthy.
pressure has grown for Daniel Jones for sure in the New York Giants because you got to remember Drew Lock came into New York hot and very hot because look at his run that he did with Seattle. Although he was benched for the most part, the few games that he did make an impact in, it was a win nonetheless, and it was a close, fun game, and we saw
Mhm.
talent. That is something that Daniel Jones needs to consider. Although right now they're saying it's a possible injury, we don't know how long it's going to be. He should be ready to go for the regular season. But that's something we got to keep in mind. He can instantly take his spot within a heartbeat, and he could be the your next replacement. So that is the pressure's really grown for Daniel Jones, and he really needs to step it up. And week one is going to be his ultimate test for sure.
Yeah. And of course, we get started with the Aaron Rodgers era, and all Jet fans are again super optimistic that this is going to be the year. And
If
both
he
you and I, we kind of agree that we don't know what we're going to get. We're talking about a 40-year-old quarterback now
right,
who seems to be in tip-top shape, no question about it, but coming off an
is he?
Achilles, you know.
Uh, well,
So
like, listen, my points about Aaron Rodgers, real quick, is he's old. He's getting older, and we haven't seen him play football in over a year. So that is another issue. We don't remember what Aaron Rodgers is known to do. We've seen him when he played in Green Bay, but can we translate that to what we're going to see come the New York Jets coming this upcoming season? He will not play this preseason game today with the Giants, although I believe he should have, because I would give an opportunity to see what he can do and to give him some practice because he's going to go in there not playing a football game in over a year, but
yep,
now expect to make some magic. And it's against San Francisco, which is not an easy team. As we remember,
no,
they are tough and they are very good indeed. And I think for the New York Jets, if Aaron Rodgers can survive the game, avoid injury, win or loss, I think that's enough to say, you know what, we could have a decent season. Not enough to say we're going to make it to the playoffs, but we're going to have a decent season nonetheless. But I don't give too much high expectation on them.
yeah, and you and I are certainly going to drill down a little bit deeper as we go through the divisions next week on our preview show. Um, so finally, because preseason is, oh, I can't stand watching
Wrapping up.
preseason. Yeah, wrapping up.
I mean,
So.
well, I mean, listen, I want to point out one thing about preseason before I get to other NFL notes. We are seeing, as I mentioned, high scoring games, and I think that all has to factor into the kickoff rule. So, are we going to see more high scoring games come regular season time with our normal regular starters on the teams? And that will factor in. For example, this is the final scores from yesterday's and Thursday's games. Colts Bengals ended 27-14. That is a high scoring game. 34-21 Chicago over Kansas City. We saw Jaguars over Falcons, 31-zip. Nothing for the Falcons. It was preseason. Yeah. Embarrassing. And 49ers Raiders, they ended in a tie at 24. We don't see ties often in preseason. So that is, again, something that the kickoff rule will factor in. How much more high-scoring games can we see? A couple comments here from Michael. He says, I like the dynamic of the show. Glad YouTube recommended it. I follow you guys on X. Well, thanks for watching. And we also have other comments from Mark. Love the show. And hi, Jim. And he also says, what does it feel like having all the stats and information in your head? Jim, you want to answer that one?
Well, listen, it's Mark. The only thing I could say is, when I was growing up and I was Eli's age, that's what I lived and died for. All sports across all spectrums. That's why we could talk intelligently about golf and tennis and football and baseball. And Eli's just the same way. He dives into this stuff. It's his passion. And it's something, when you have a passion, it's something that you feel great talking about. And we
Absolutely.
love other people's opinions and so forth. Right. And people would say, you should have studied more of your biology. Well, I knew I wasn't going to be a surgeon, so I didn't really care as much about biology. But
all right, moving along.
So being a sports podcast host with Eli is something we enjoy. And yeah, I mean, people say, well, how do you know that Lou Gehrig's lifetime batting average is 340 or that Mickey Mantle's lifetime average is 298? It's because it was so interesting to us growing up, both my brother and I, and we just loved it. And, like I said, sports are changing a little bit, as I get older. I don't take things as personal as I used to. Like if the Giants would lose a big game, I was devastated as a kid. But now we could talk about it because it's as popular as ever. Look at the NFL. It even with the rule changes and everything, it's still the most popular sport in the world.
Absolutely.
And it's something that we enjoy doing. So thank you.
And we have another couple more comments. Michael said, me too, I have a few shows on 12-ounce sports and told the owner about you. Thank you very much. And Mark said,
thank you, Michael. Yeah.
Mark said, haha, thank God. And do what you love. And yeah, I think it's worked out that you're not going to be a surgeon. I don't think I'm going to be either. So
no, that's a perfect way to Mark, because I know he's very successful in his own right. You do what you love and you love doing it. It makes it just makes it great. And getting comments from Michael who just, Michael, thank you. I mean, I can't appreciate it much more than that. And we love your opinions. We love when people comment. We're not always right? We like to think we're right most of the time, but it's always topics that are open for discussion, and it's something that we enjoy. And
absolutely,
we're going to be here for a while. And Eli and I, we got a great chemistry together, and people recognize that. So thanks for the comment.
Back to football. The two other comments I want to bring up real quick about quarterback. The Broncos named Bo Nix as their week 1 starter. Minshew has been the name of the starter for the Raiders. I like Minshew as the Raiders starter, and I like Nix as the starter for the Broncos. I have no issue with those two, and I don't think there was another competition that you could have thrown out there for those two teams.
Well, yeah, and we're going to dive into that a little bit more during our preview show. But when you see things like, Bo Nix getting an opportunity, this is a big season for Sean Payton and the Denver Broncos because he threw Russell Wilson to the curb and so forth. So you never know who's going to make it. I've always talked very highly of Bo Nix. I was delighted that Denver made that selection to pick it, and it looks like it may have been the right decision. So,
and back to the Steelers and what your point about Russell Wilson, why do we not know who the starter is? It's Wilson and Justin Fields. I mean, this is a little insane. Russell Wilson was at one point one of the greats of all time for football. People idoled him, looked up to him. Seattle, he did a lot. Goes to Denver, blacks out, and fails out. And now he's in Pittsburgh, and we don't even know who the week 1 starter is because
Yeah.
it's a competition. How is that even a competition? I mean, it just blows my mind that we're still in this situation. And that goes to show that the Steelers are going to struggle this year if we don't even know who the week 1 starter is. And if we're still, we don't know yet.
Well, by the time we get to our preview show next week, we will know the answers to these questions.
We hope.
We will. We will.
All right. Well, other notes I want to bring up real quick around the NFL. Eagles released tight end CJ Uzomah, and the Falcons cornerback AJ Terrell agrees on a 4-year, $81 million extension. And Travis Kelce will star in Happy Gilmore 2, as announced this week. So,
I saw that.
I mean, if you like,
there was
Happy
actually
Gilmore.
one. Yeah, I wanted to bring something up too because
Yes.
you and I have been talking about the money that these guys are getting in the NFL now, right? They're paying offensive linemen, they're paying cornerbacks, they're paying. So Creed Humphreys started on
Yes, I
Patrick
was going to get
Mahomes'
to that.
bodyguard, right? Just signed the biggest contract ever for an NFL center, 4 years, $72 million.
It's insane, but you can't go wrong, I guess you could say. That, I mean, yeah. And other news happening, Mike Greenberg will replace Sam Ponder's hosting seat on Sunday NFL Countdown. Quarterback Stephon Gilmore has reached a year, $10 million deal with the Vikings. He was a former Cowboy. The Commanders are trading wide receiver Jahan Dotson and a 5th-round pick to the Eagles in exchange for other draft picks. And free agent cornerback J.C. Jackson has been suspended for a game after violating the personal conduct policy along with the Cardinals wide receiver Zay Jones. And the final news is it's only preseason, but it's time to have a little bit of fun as Mahomes and Kelce did a behind-the-back move. Mahomes did a behind-the-back move to Kelce, and he caught it. It was not it was not scheduled and meant to be, but it happened and became a highlight for Patrick Mahomes. One of the greatest preseason moments, and the GOAT can still do stuff even in preseason. It's pretty amazing.
It absolutely is. So, a lot of stuff, and looking forward to our
preview show next week.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, Eli, let's jump into Major League Baseball real quick.
Yep.
Like I said, we're getting down to the stretch run. The Yankees and Aaron Judge having, an absolute monster year. Hit another home run last night, 4 games in a row. The guy's just tearing it up, and we try to put it into perspective. Shohei Ohtani just got to the 40-40 club last night with a walk-off grand slam, and somebody posed an interesting question to me. If you were going to start a team tomorrow, who you starting it with? Is it Aaron Judge? Is it Shohei Ohtani? And
Aaron
based
Judge.
on the season right now, I mean, Aaron Judge he's just hitting the lights, or just knocking it all over the place. And
Aaron Judge.
So I would probably take Judge too. But you can't deny that this kid Ohtani is living up to all the expectations, and I'm sure it's related to the fact that he's not having to go out there and pitch every 4 or 5 days.
That's the other issue. Yeah. But I would still take Judge. I mean, listen, he's a fantastic player. He's hit tons of home runs already, and Shohei Ohtani's great. But I think if he was able to do a little bit more pitch and do a couple other extra things, I think I would pick him instead. But right now, Judge is having that kind of a season where if I had an all-star draft right now, and if I'm supposed to play that all-star game, he is my number 1 starter, 100% for sure.
And when you look at it, like the season, Bobby Witt Jr., who's only like 24 years old, any other season he'd be considered certainly the MVP. He's hitting 350 plus, but unfortunately for him, Aaron Judge is having an MVP season, and he's about to be have his at least third 50 home run season. And we talked about it last week. He became the fastest player to get to 300 home runs.
Correct.
Which when you look at all of the home run hitters in the 500 club, that is as impressive as
it can
any
get.
other stat you could bring up. So
100%.
So we're like I said, we're down to like 30, 35 games. So
yeah, and we saw
run is going to be, And yet, and you brought it up, right? You brought it up last week. The expectations for the Yankees based on the season that him and Soto and now Garrett Cole is coming back but do they have enough across the board? Can those three players carry an entire team all the way to the World Series? That's
No,
that's going to be the
absolutely
big test.
not. And you cannot. I mean, listen, they're struggling now against little teams, and they're struggling to get a win now, even though they're in first place. Yes, they got a lot of wins, and I know you're probably saying, "Yeah, he's crazy," but if they're losing to certain teams and a bad fashion and not a close game matchup, that's pretty bad to say, and that's going to go to show that you're going to struggle. The
Yep.
market that is out there right now, the teams that are left and that are going to be World Series contenders and playoff contenders, they're going to be far more dominant than the New York Yankees, regardless if they are in second place, third place, fourth place. Because right now, anybody on this list, I can tell you, is going to be a lot better than New York Yankees in the postseason run. Because they're, to me, almost like the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, it's a
Yep.
hot take to say, but the Yankees are like the Dallas Cowboys. They're going to have such a regular season, a hot start and run. They go to the playoffs and they bust. I mean, that's the bottom line. That's how I see it. It's a hot take to say. I know you're gonna think I'm crazy, but to me right now, they're the Dallas Cowboys of baseball.
Well, I listen.
That's a hot
I
take. I
think
know.
right. I mean, obviously, it's going to come down to a few teams, and we're gonna drill into this as we get near the end of the season. But the Yankees, we may not have a Major League Baseball team with 100-win season for the first time in quite some time,
I know
and
it's
that's
pretty
how
crazy.
because the balance of power is very, there's a lot of parity with
And the
the
game
Orioles and the
changing.
Yankees. The Cleveland Guardians are playing good baseball. The Dodgers, so the Phillies have seemed to come back to earth, but they got a great pitching
And I
staff, so they're
think
going to be okay.
the pitch clock also has something to factor in too. Because the faster the pitch, you gotta get going, you gotta move along with the game. So I know I have a feeling that factors in also and why we're also seeing a less high scoring 100 game over mark for these
Yeah.
teams.
Yep. So,
And we
anyway,
saw firing
baseball
so
is,
far. Mariners
uh,
fired Scott Servais and Joe Votto retires from baseball. Those are the two hot stories out of the market right now.
yeah, and that actually came up. I saw that Joey Votto, he's retired finally at 40 years old, and he was a great player. But of course, naturally, the first question that comes up is
Is he a Hall of
Joey
Famer?
Votto a Hall of Famer? And no, not by any stretch.
But he was good enough to get recognized, though, for sure.
Yeah, no, he's over 300 home runs, and real, face of the Cincinnati Reds for many, many years.
Right.
But let's not get ahead of ourselves because I'm very strict in my Hall of Fame selection stuff.
Absolutely. The other two news stories that happened in the Major League Baseball was Chicago White Sox are officially eliminated from the playoffs. That was the top top story. So
Maybe one of the worst teams ever. Maybe.
well, yeah, that's for sure. Right
Yeah.
now, but they could turn around. Look at the Texans. That's what I
Yep.
always use the Texans as my example. And I think the highlight of this week for baseball was Kevin James doing his "Start Your Engines" thing, but for the Mets, and saying, "God bless our troops, God bless America, God bless the New York Mets, and let's start playing baseball." I think that's the highlight of the sports week was Kevin James at the New York
Okay.
Mets doing his "Start Your Engines" thing. I
Well,
think that
full
we could all agree
disclosure,
on that.
I'm a big Kevin James fan, so whatever he
He's
does
hilarious.
is good by me. Yeah.
I mean, he's hilarious, Kevin James. You cannot go wrong with something Kevin James does. And I think I think he's most notable for me. Obviously, his movies are great and everything, but from the NASCAR, the Start Your Engines, his the
Yeah.
way he did it. So I mean, that's
I know.
that's recognizable. You can't underestimate, and it's Kevin James.
Yep. Okay. So one other quick thing before we move on to our random points of interest, right?
Right.
My passion, and I have a picture that I want to show later on, but we posted some pictures from Saratoga, which is just an absolute, just a gem of a place to go. And so the running of the Travers Stakes is today, and it's just a quality card. I'm going to give a couple of picks. I'm going to go with Fierceness. And Sierra Leone. Those are two horses that have shown that they have, They were worthy. They're going up against Dornock, who won one of the Triple Crown races. So that's an all-star lineup up in Saratoga for the
Absolutely.
Travers.
I'm
And that
surprised you didn't
goes
go
off.
this week to Saratoga to see that one. That's a
Yeah,
better
I know,
matchup.
but it'll be so crowded because when you
Well, I mean,
yeah, but
I can imagine, right?
right. And
Right.
I do have one long shot. It's probably worth a sawbuck. You could throw it on a horse called Honor Marie.
Okay.
But the Travers is great, and then that'll be the final big race before the Breeders' Cup comes up in November.
Yeah.
Right. All right, Eli. So let's jump into some random points of interest, which of course is sponsored by Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut. And I got a couple. I'm sure you have a couple.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had talked about the Tua thing, but we just mentioned something about the Hall of Fame because I did see a special which I had only seen bits and pieces of it, and this relates back to when I say I'm a strict guy about who should get in the Hall of Fame and not get in the Hall of Fame. And I was an advocate for since the show started 5 years ago that Joe Klecko belonged in the Hall of Fame. And I watched this special on SNY. It's called Klecko 73. That was his number. And it just made me even more and more. I felt like I was validated by this because they were interviewing guys. And I know some of our audience may not know who John Hannah was. Well, John Hannah was probably maybe the greatest offensive guard in the history of the National Football League, and he had a Hall of Fame career with the New England Patriots. And he said the one guy I just did not like to have to line up against week after week was Joe Klecko. And I'm glad they did it. I can't believe it took 20 years for him to get recognized, but it's a great special. And he was so taken aback and so emotional over it. But when you get guys like Dwight Stevenson and John Hannah telling you to your face that you were an unbelievable player, and like I said before, he's the only player to make the Pro Bowl at 3 different positions, and he didn't have the numbers like the sack counts and all that, but because he moved from the defensive end to defensive tackle to nose tackle. But he was a force to be reckoned with, and I'm so delighted by it. And if you have an opportunity, I'm not a Jets fan, but I'm a fan of great players in this league, and I always considered him one of them.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, another useless thing is this Mike Tyson, what's his name? Jake Paul fight. I mean,
Jake Paul, it's Mike Tyson. Yeah.
When is this happening, Eli? So we could get
Never
this over and done with.
Never.
Huh?
It ain't happening.
Never.
I don't think it's happening. I've been heard nothing. Yeah, no, I don't think it's happening.
No, but I just saw they had like a weigh-in the other day. I don't know.
I didn't see anything about it. I mean,
I think it's on. Not that I'm gonna watch 1 second of it.
While you're doing the other random points, I was looking to see if there's any other news. Not much news popped up right now, but I'm gonna Google to see when this Mike Tyson is. But I don't think it's happening from what I heard.
Yeah, I got a couple of other quick ones. So Al Michaels actually turned down an offer from Amazon, who, like you pointed out last week, spent $1.8 billion for the rights to NBA basketball game. And they offered the season 1 under on Amazon to Al Michaels, and he turned it down. And it was actually kind of a classy move, saying, listen, this is a foundation piece. This is a new format. Give it to the young guys that are going to be there for a while. Al Michaels is 81 years old, so I think that ship has sailed. And he didn't just take the money.
But he did basketball before. It's just right now, it's a new era of basketball. You're now on streaming services. He's done enough with football. He left NBC for a smaller package with Amazon just to do 1 game a week instead of like 2 or 3 that NBC would be doing. So it makes sense. Right time, right move. And by the way, Jake Paul, Mike Tyson fight is scheduled for Friday, November 15th at AT&T Arlington Stadium in Texas. And it's on Netflix. But guess what? I won't be watching, and nor is Michael, because he comments and says, I won't watch the fight either. But Steve R says, I can see the show evolving. It's exciting, so polished and professional. the Go for Sports News and Insight. So thank you for watching.
Oh, thank you, Steve. Steve happens to be one of my dear friends, and in his own right, he's a music guy, and he just, he wrote the theme song for our show. So
Yes.
thank you, Steve. Appreciate it.
Well, and Michael,
And
I
I
agree.
got one,
I won't be watching the fight either. I won't purchase Netflix to watch it. I don't have Netflix.
not 1 second of it will I watch either.
And
Just for
listen,
the record.
I don't have Netflix. I don't know about like dying where I
Right.
could say I'm gonna watch it. Where like
It could be on channel 2 and I wouldn't watch it. So
right.
And just one other
Game
random
shows.
point. Yep. One other random point. So Tennessee wins the NCAA baseball tournament championship this year. And as a reward, Tony Vitello, head coach of Tennessee, now becomes the highest paid baseball coach in college baseball and got a $3 million a year contract. So if you think it's not tied to the revenue that University of Tennessee got and the recognition, that's the reward he gets. So he's now the highest paid. So now we're going to start seeing guys getting paid a little bit behind right now, but when you look at what college football coaches make, now baseball coaches are making millions of dollars
For sure.
well.
Yeah, we knew that. All right. I'll get my random points then. Here we go. Let's kick it off with the WNBA, where the Liberty are in first place with a 25-4 record. And guess what? They've clinched a playoff spot. The New York Liberty are in the playoffs run, and they're hoping to bring home the trophy to New York City. So we are giving them the best of luck and wish. Last night's scores: Phoenix over Atlanta 82-80, Connecticut over Chicago 82-80, Washington over LA 80-74, and Minnesota over Las Vegas 87-74. A lot of close games there. I was watching a few of them last night on Ion, where the game was on. And today's games, you have Connecticut, New York at 7 o'clock, Indiana, Minnesota, 8 p.m. on NBA TV. Tomorrow, you have two games, 12 p.m. CBS, Las Vegas, Chicago, and 4 p.m. NBA TV, LA, and Dallas. So, yeah, fun to watch for the WNBA side of things. Other news happening. Go ahead.
Go ahead. But the WNBA, like I said, it's becoming almost the lead story on ESPN. Who would have thought this 3 years ago?
Listen, it's been fun to watch. I have no issue. It's a good game. All right. The Hughes brothers are the front cover of the EA Sports NHL 25 video game coming on October 4th to PS5 and Xbox Series X consoles. So they are the front cover. The locker room is a picture that they have, also features their parents and a few other stuff. All three Hughes brothers. And of course, Quinn's in the middle because he's not a New Jersey Devil. So they have to put the side Luke and Jack. So we want to point that out as well. Forward, Gershon Yabusele agreed on a 1-year, $2.1 million deal with the 76ers. That was announced this week as well. The other
he played for France. Didn't he play for France in the Olympics? I
believe so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Other two stories happening is last week I was at the Harlem Globetrotters the game yesterday, which was broadcast for the first time in 40 years on television. So I was glad to be there. I was doing some media coverage. You could check out my full interviews along with stand-up reports and everything live on the Sports Mono YouTube channel. Features Generals Kayla Gabor and Trayvon Diesel Kirkendall from the Globetrotters, and it is now the most watched video in the show's history. So out of the entire channel's history, that is now the most watched video of any
great
show.
Job.
So
great
go
job,
ahead and check that out there. Don't forget to comment, like. It's the Harlem Globetrotters residency. It was a fixed game. As we know, the Harlem Globetrotters, it was all fixed. They won 134 to 130. It's all fixed.
I remember the Harlem Globetrotters when it was Meadowlark Lemon and Curly Neal and Goose Tatum and all those guys. So yeah,
it's fun to watch, but it's all fun and games. It's not like
I know it is
basketball. But
I wanted to actually give you credit. That was a very nice job you did, and that's on our YouTube channel. You could check that out.
Go ahead, check it out. And one thing I added in my monologue was it's not the first time that they played in East Rutherford. As you know, they played in the Izod Center, which is not right next door to American Dream. That's where they played a couple of matches before it shut down. So I added that also into the report that it's not their first homecoming back to East Rutherford. The final note of the day is, as a reminder, if you're in New Jersey Transit Fair Holidays Monday to Sunday kicks off this Monday. Free rides on all modes of transportation. Be cautious on what you ride on, and don't ride the train on very hot days is my recommendation in case it breaks down again. But take advantage of public transportation if you can. Takes advantage of beginning Monday.
I got you. Okay.
That's it.
Good random points. So
Sign up
our
for the entertainment segment sponsored by Vital Selection. Scan the QR code
yep.
to learn more. It's a new title that we
Yep.
want to throw in there.
And of course, sponsored by Vital Selections again. The most recent sponsor of our show, and we couldn't be more grateful for their support. So yeah, I got a movie recommendation. And I like comedies and things like that. So my movie recommendation is Dirty Rotten Scoundrels with Steve Martin and Michael Caine. I'm assuming you've never seen it.
Nope.
But if it's a great movie, funny. And if you have an opportunity to check it out, and these are movies that are 30 years old now, but I wouldn't recommend it if I wouldn't watch it myself, and I've seen it many times. Great movie.
Excellent. All right, so my pick is, as you all know, I'm a big game show person. So this pick is going to be the newest game. It's on Fox. It's called the 1% Club. It's on Mondays at 9 p.m. on Fox. There are 3 more episodes left before the season finale happens. It's hosted by Pat Oswalt from the King of Queens, who you may know the most. He was Spencer.
Yeah, he was Spencer on King of Queens.
Yes, King of Queens, Pat Oswalt, right? So he's the host of 1% Club. It's actually a really good game. It's battling it out for $100,000, and these guys are it's 100 people there in a room. They are answering questions, but the level of difficulty decreases. It goes from 90% to 80% to 20% to 1%. It's a whole range of questions, and it's amazing to see how many people are dumb on the simplest, easiest question that we all can think of on the top of our heads, and the top couple of questions, not towards the end, but the beginning. It's a pretty fun show. I recommend it 9 o'clock on Fox.
All right. You are the game show guru of this show. There's no question about it.
All right. Here are the photos for the week.
Yeah, we got a couple of photos. And this is one of my friends who hosted us up in Saratoga. And that's 3 generations of the Costellos. That's Jay on the left. That's his son on the right. And that's his new grandson being held by Dan. So that's 3 generations of Costellos. And I have one other picture, which I wanted to post because I just think this is cool personified. This 2-year-old grandson of mine sitting in a pool, drinking his little drink. He looks like,
it's a blue drink, so it has to be like Powerade or Gatorade.
Yeah, obviously it's something like that.
I gotta observe the little details, but it looks like one of those professional shots, like when you go in the pool and everything. Like
it really does. It really does.
Just hanging out at the pool. All right, nothing new. That's how I'm spending my Saturday. I mean, wow, good for.
Isn't that cute? 2 years old too. Wow. Yep. All right, Eli. So we close our show every week with notable passings, and we've had some busy weeks. We've had some light weeks. So there's some very notables this week. And Bill Donahue,
yes,
88, I guess known as the king of daytime, one of the original daytime talk show hosts. And I didn't, necessarily agree with his
everything he said,
political views and whatnot, but he was absolutely a force in daytime media. And he was 88 years old. So that was, like I said, I don't have to agree with people's philosophies, but when I say we bring this up because he was notable, he certainly made his name in that business.
For sure.
And Bill Pascrell, who was a long-time congressman from the state of New Jersey, 87 years old. And here's a perfect example. I don't necessarily always agree with it, but you know what? I would consider myself not a Democrat, but Bill Pascrell was a Democratic congressman, but he did a lot, and you could say that he did a lot for the state of New Jersey. He actually was one of the few politicians that fought for his constituency, and that's rare in today's day and age. But he was 87 years old, and the ironic thing was, I was just having a conversation with one of our loyal listeners, Diego, the day before, and we were talking about Bill Pascrell, and he passed away the following day. Isn't that odd? And
Wow.
one other one from the world of sports was Al Attles. And I remember Al Attles. He was basically a member of the Warriors for almost
Yes.
6 decades.
Forever.
He
Yeah.
was a player. He was actually he was a player on the game that Will Chamberlain scored 100 points in Hershey, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Um, he was also a good player in his own right,
Yeah.
and he was the head coach of the Warriors when they won the NBA championship back in, I want to say, 75 with Rick Barry was on that team, and
Yeah.
Al Attles was the coach of that. He was 87 years old, so well respected in the NBA circles. And like I said, he was not only a head coach, but he was also in the front office and represented that organization for many years.
Absolutely. And we do have a comment here before I get to the final notable passing here is good morning to all. It's Eric. So good morning.
That's
Thanks
my
for
guy,
tuning in.
Eric.
And the last notable passing that we have to bring up, Patriots physician Dr. Mark Price died this past week. He was born in 1972. He was 52 years old. So Jim, I
Wow.
know you said you were going to be working on the biology stuff. So we have an open position with the Patriots if you're interested.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to stick with sports, I think, at
Okay.
this point in my
You
career.
know,
But
just want to bring that up there, of course. You know, I know you said you
I
were.
appreciate that, Eli.
Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right.
So,
We got to bring
all
it
right,
up.
listen. So I know you got a little media day you're going to
Yes.
today, so we're gonna let you go. But again, from Michael, who sent some comments in today, thank you very much. We had a great week from a viewership perspective, and check out Eli's little interview with his Harlem Globetrotters. And again, our show is nothing without our loyal listeners, and
Absolutely.
we're gaining more and more momentum week after week after week, and we just couldn't be more delighted and grateful for all your support.
And we cannot thank you all for watching. Don't forget to keep on commenting. We'll be back next week at 10 o'clock with all new content in our NFL preview show. So stay tuned for that.
Yes.
We have 2 games to pick. So I got to get ready to pick.
No, we picked 3 games actually.
Oh, well, 2 because we have Thursday and Friday.
Oh, we got okay. I see where you're
Right.
going.
I have the following week we have to pick 3, but this
Okay.
this show we have to pick Thursday's game and Friday. Let's
All
be
right.
close and good. All right.
Thanks, everybody. Eli, enjoy your day. And again, thanks for the support, folks. And we'll see you guys next week at 10.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.